You're in tune to the Paperflip Real Estate Podcast.
You're in tune to the Paperflip Podcast with Lloyd for Real Estate. It's great to be back, returning from a hiatus. Been off from the channel for a while, so it's good to be back. Took a nice vacation to Greece with my wife. Had a fantastic time. Have a few pics to share with you real quick. And to detail our trip just a little bit. Won't hold you too long with that, but had an interesting time in Greece. Took a 7-day cruise and also spent some time in Athens, Greece, and some other parts, as well as Turkey. And saw a lot of historical sites and a whole lot of different excursions and adventures. Want to give a quick shout out to MH Family Adventures, Raquel and Ron, hosting up a good time. It was about 40 of us, a group that went over. We flew directly into Athens, Greece, and left out a port there to take a 7-day cruise. It was just fantastic. Had a good time. A lot of different things going on, but trying to get back on track, talk about what's going on around here in the world of real estate. And also, speaking of that, I do have a listing for you in South Holland, 16914 Parkside, South Holland, 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath. New listing that I have, be posting a open house coming up soon. So if you get a chance, if you're interested in buying, do have your agent take you out and take a look at the property. It is now available on a multiple listing service. And with that said, we're going to get started with today's briefing. Today's topic, with interest rates dropping, it's now a good time to buy a house in Chicago. Right now, interest rates sitting around 6.37% the last time I checked. And that's the subject of today's topic. Get ready to get off into that. So interest rates just dropped under 6.8% for the first time in 2 years, 6.37 to be exact, as I have mentioned. So that Bucktown 2 flat you've been stalking on Redfin suddenly looks, well, not just possible, but actually doable. You know, it's a feeling many Chicago hopefuls have experienced. They haven't experienced this in a while, but here's the twist. This is a big one. Median home in Chicago still costs around a solid $402,000, and nearly half of all the listings are still snatched up and under contract in a brisk 49 days. Quick 49 days. So are you about to snag a genuine bargain, or are you just stepping onto a treadmill that's already speeding up to a sprint? Stick around, and by the end of this video, you have the exact math and insider insights to know whether you should jump in now, keep hunting with clear strategy, or sit tight and wait until 2026 rather. This isn't just about the rates, it's about making your next best move. So here's the deal. Now, I'm not here to blindly hype the market or, on the flip side, scare you into contemplating a move back in with your parents, which no judgment here, nothing wrong with that if that's what is necessary. But I am here to help you understand this market and kind of be prepared for what to do next. So trust me, I'm seeing the raw numbers, the buyer psychology, and the seller expectations that play out in real time every single day. Now, today, we're going to cover 4 critical things. What these new lower rates actually save you per month, and what that truly means for your budget. How much hidden inventory is lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to appear. Which neighborhoods are still experiencing those crazy bidding wars that make your head spin. And finally, the one indispensable calculator you absolutely need on your phone before you even think about touring another property. So let's dive in and get you armed with the knowledge that you need. So this rate drop, what does that actually mean for you? Well, let's cut right to the chase with the headline everyone is buzzing about. Now, the average 30-year fixed loan is currently hovering around 6.37%, as mentioned, a noticeable dip from the 7.3% we were seeing back in January. Now, on a $400,000 mortgage, that quarter point drop might sound small, but it actually shaves off roughly $65 a month from your payment. Put that in perspective, that's about one truly epic deep dish dinner for two at your favorite spot, like Beggars or something like that, mine, but I digress. Not exactly life-changing money, in other words, I get it, but here's where it gets kind of interesting. Now, if rates continue their gentle slide, perhaps another half a point by December, you suddenly looking at saving closer to about $150 a month, which adds up to a respectable $1,800 over the course of a year. That's enough to cover your annual CTA pass and a good chunk of your ComEd bills. So, sorry to feel a bit more substantial, right? But let's inject a dose of reality in here. Now, every major forecast out there, from Fannie Mae to Freddie Mac, the whole financial gang, they all pretty much agree that rates are likely to land somewhere between 6.0 and 6.5 by the end of the year. So yes, money is indeed getting cheaper, which is fantastic for new buyers. However, let's be crystal clear. It's not going back to those dreamy 3% levels we saw a few years ago anytime soon, like during COVID. Now, if you're patiently or perhaps impatiently waiting for 2021 rate hikes to suddenly reappear, might as well be waiting for the next viral TikTok dance sensation to fade into obscurity. And by the end, Chicago home prices, which have shown remarkable resilience, will have simply kept marching onward and upward, leaving you further behind. So here's a quick, actionable reality check. Now, every quarter point drop in interest rates adds approximately 3% to your overall buying power. Now, think about that for a second. Now, on a $400,000 budget, that's an extra $12,000 you could potentially bid on a property without actually raising your monthly payment. So the translation with that, if you're pre-approved for a $400,000 loan today and rates manage to fall another half a point, you could theoretically stretch your budget to $425,000 without increasing your monthly expenses. It's a significant bump in what you could actually afford. And guess what? Sellers are also smart. They know this math also. So that precisely is why list prices aren't exactly plummeting. They're not just dropping down erratically, but instead they are largely flat, or in many desirable areas, they are inching up. They understand that buyers' purchasing power is slowly but surely expanding. Bottom line here is that dropping rates are a welcome tailwind, giving buyers a little bit of a push. But they're not a Category 5 tornado sweeping everything before them. The real story, the one that truly dictates market dynamics in Chicago, is supply. And that, my friends, is where our unique city gets incredibly interesting. So let's talk about this inventory, this hidden story about inventory. So, because this is where the Chicago market truly reveals its quirks. Now, right now, Chicago has roughly 8,200 homes listed for sale. And on the surface, that sounds like a decent number, and it's up about 16% since January, which is a positive trend for buyers looking for more options. But let's zoom in a bit closer, peek back the layers, and see what's really going on here. Now, a significant chunk, we're talking roughly 40% of those listings are either downtown condos priced under $400,000 or single-family homes on the south side listed for under $250,000. Now, if your dream home is a charming 3-bedroom frame house nestled in Portage Park, or perhaps a classic brick 2-flat and vibrant and upcoming Logan Square, you're not actually looking at a 6-month supply inventory. You're probably looking at maybe 6 weeks. The inventory that truly matters to you, the one that fits your specific criteria, is still incredibly tight. So why aren't more owners selling, especially with prices holding steady? Here's the cold hard truth. Staggering 72% of all mortgages in Cook County carry an interest rate below 4%. Those folks, salute to them, are what we affectionately call, they are married to their rate. I get it. I'm one of them. I get it. I understand. The thought of divorcing that incredibly low rate, well, is financially painful. Somebody's trying to get rid of something that's around 4% or even better. If you were lucky enough to buy in, let's say, 2020 at around 3%, trading up to a bigger place today could easily jack up your monthly payment for $1,000 or more, even after you factor in banking all that equity that you have built up. Now, the cost of moving up is simply too high for many, and so they stay put. Consequently, the supply of those desirable move-in-ready homes remains stubbornly real thin. It's a classic catch-22 for the overall market. So you say, what about new construction? Well, surely builders are stepping up to meet their demand. Well, maybe. I mean, not so fast. Only about 1,200 new units broke ground in the entire Chicago metro area this year. That's a disheartening 30% drop from 2023. And you say, why this massive slowdown? Well, sky-high lumber costs, the notorious dealing with city permits and construction loans, now sitting at a hefty 8%, have builders, they kind of spooked. They're simply not seeing the profit margins to justify the risk and the effort, and that means the cavalry isn't coming over the hill to flood the market with new homes anytime soon. We can't rely on them to solve our inventory woes. It's not going to happen. But now, for a fascinating wild card here, inherited properties. Now, attorneys I speak with are telling me that probate inventory is up a noticeable 12% this spring. Many of these homes need a good 20 grand or more in updates. Think about new kitchens, updated baths, fresh paint, that kind of stuff. But here's the kicker. They hit the MLS at below market prices because they often are sold as is, and they still manage to draw 10 or more offers, sometimes within days. Now, if you're handy, have a contractor, handyman, or something like that on speed dial, and crucially can close in 30 days or less, then it might be your lane. That's where some of the best deals and immediate equity in terms of opportunity are hiding out at. Takeaway here is crucial. More inventory is trickling in, but it's a drip feed, not a flood. It's highly segmented, and the good stuff is still scarce. Waiting for a true buyer's market with abundant choices could mean waiting through another full interest rate cycle, only to find prices have continued their upward trajectory. So let's go into a neighborhood spotlight where the bids are still kind of crazy. Now let's get hyper-local, because the Chicago market is a patchwork quilt, not a single fabric. What's happening in one neighborhood could be vastly different from the next block over. Now, let's take Lincoln Park, for instance. Now here, the median days on the market is a lightning fast 21 days. And the sale to list ratio is a robust 102%. So that means homes are selling quickly and on average for more than their asking price, 102%. Recently saw a plain vanilla 2-bedroom condo on Dearborn. Nothing particularly flashy about it. Closed 8% over ask with a whopping 20 offers. And you say, why the frenzy? It's a trifecta. You got unbeatable walkability, convenient blue line access connecting you to everything, and the consistently highly rankings of the Lincoln Park Elementary School, which is a massive draw for a lot of families. These are the non-negotiables for many buyers out there, and they are willing to pay a premium to get them. So now to shift, let's go west over to Humboldt Park. You'll find a somewhat of a similar story, but with a more approachable price tag. Now, a beautifully renovated gray stone listed at a very attractive $425,000 recently drew 18 offers and ultimately closed at $465,000, all cash with a lightning fast 10-day close. Winning bid even waived the inspection, which can be a real risky, real tricky move. However, the buyer's agent was incredibly smart here, and they proactively arranged for a pre-inspection at their own cost, allowing their client to limit the waiver to only major systems. So that's the leverage of a strategic thinking and proactive problem solving you absolutely need in this kind of competitive environment. You can't just show up and hope for the best. So where's the one soft spot, you do ask? And they are in downtown condos. Now, they are different in terms of being a different beast entirely. Now, I recently tracked a one-bedroom in River North that sat on the market for 88 days before the owner finally cut the price from $349,000 to $329,000, eventually selling for $320,000. So you say, what's the deal here? Those hefty assessments, often over $600 a month, are a significant deterrent for many buyers, and plus the specter of special assessments for building repairs looms large. Now, if you're okay with navigating a bit of HOA or homeowners association drama and doing your due diligence, then that's where you find genuine negotiability and potentially a fantastic deal. It's all about understanding the trade-offs. Now, but on the flip side, the South Loop is experiencing a real renaissance. Now, the new Grant Park development and the ambitious 78 project are creating an undeniable buzz, drawing in new residents, drawing in new investment. Now, a spacious 900 square foot corner unit with stunning lake views recently sold in just about 34 days at 99% of its list price. While still not cheap at $410,000, you're getting into the South Loop for under replacement costs, which is a smart long-term play. Here's a practical rule of thumb. Now, if Redfin's compete score for a property is 90 or above, you should absolutely expect a bid of 3 to 5% over the asking price. Be prepared to waive the appraisal gap up to, say, $20,000 and be flexible enough to offer a 60-day rent back if the seller needs it to coordinate their own move. That's the price of admission. However, if the score is under 70, you got leverage. You can likely negotiate for repairs, and you might even land a property for 1% under list price. Now, you can download that app and check the score before you even book the showing. That could be your secret weapon right there. So, deciding to rent versus buy, and you do the 2025 calculator test. Now, this is the moment of truth for many buyers out there, the classic rent versus buy dilemma. Now, let's crunch some numbers for Chicago for 2025. Now, the average one-bedroom apartment here is currently commanding about $2,063 a month. Now, factor in renter's insurance and inevitable parking costs, because Chicago, you're going to need that. You could easily look at $2,200 out the door every month. Now, let's compare that to a hypothetical $400,000 mortgage at 6.25%. And when you add in property taxes, homeowners insurance, and any HOA fees, that monthly payment runs closer to $2,900. Now, on paper, it looks like rent is a clear winner right here, right? Well, you're saving a solid $750 a month, but hold on. That's only half the story. You're missing the most powerful factor in home ownership, which is equity. In year one alone, you pay down roughly $8,500 in principal on that mortgage. That's money that isn't just disappearing into a landlord's pocket. It's building your personal wealth. Now let's conservatively estimate a 4% appreciation on your $400,000 asset. Now that's another $16,000 in value added to your home. So just in the first year, you're looking at about $8,500 in principal pay down plus $16,000 in appreciation, totaling $24,500 in wealth creation. Even if you subtract standard transaction costs of, say, 7% when you eventually sell, which covers agent commissions, title fees, et cetera, you're still netting around $14,000 in your pocket. Now divide that by 12 months, and suddenly the effective cost of ownership shrinks dramatically to about $1,800 a month. That's a $400 less than what you'd be paying to rent. The longer you hold on to that property, the wider that gap becomes and the more wealth you end up building. This brings us to the break-even horizon. Now, in Chicago today, given the current market conditions, the typical break-even point, the time it takes for buying to become financially superior to renting, is about 2.7 years. So if you foresee yourself possibly moving sooner than that, perhaps renting is still your best bet for flexibility. But if you're planning roots and planning to stay put for a while, let's say to about 2027 or longer, and buying a home will build your wealth far faster and more reliably than any savings account could ever hope to do for you. So now run one crucial caveat that often catches buyers off guard, and that's property taxes. They're a significant factor here in Chicago. Now, the assessor just mailed out reassessments in many northern townships, and some homeowners say that their bills jumped up, jaw-dropping 18%. This isn't a one-off. It's part of a cycle. So when you're budgeting, plan to allocate about 1.8% of your purchase price annually for property taxes, and absolutely insist that your lender escrows for those payments. Now, this way, the funds are collected monthly and paid on your behalf, avoiding a massive surprise bill twice a year. You can just escrow that. And if the overall monthly payment still feels a bit intimidating, consider putting down 25% instead of the standard 20%. Dropping the loan amount by just $20,000 can save you an extra $135 a month, and as a bonus, completely wipes out that pesky PMI or that private mortgage insurance. So here's a pro move for you. Use the New York Times rent versus buy calculator. It is fantastic, but don't just accept the defaults. Now for Chicago, set the appreciation rate at a more conservative 3%, not the default 4 or 5% you might see on there. And while Chicago prices are rising, our long-term growth is typically milder than, say, hyperinflated coastal cities. And also set the investment return on your cash, what you earn if you didn't put it into a down payment. Set it around 5%, not 7%. Today's money market yields are quite real, and you want to be reflective of that. These revised numbers will keep your calculations conservative, realistic, and ultimately help you sleep well at night, knowing you made a sound decision tailored to our market here in Chicago. So let's talk about the waiting game, and what if you sit still until next year, 2026. Let's play out a common scenario here. What if you decide to sit on the sidelines and wait until next year? Now, we already established that forecasters predict rates will gently drift to around 6.25% by December, maybe 6%, and then likely hover there through the next summer. Sounds kind of appealing, right? Well, lower rates means lower payments, but here's the catch. If Chicago home prices continue their steady climb of, say, 4% a year, that $400,000 house you're eyeing today will become $416,000 by this time next year. And suddenly your down payment needs to grow by an additional $3,200 just for you to stay even with the market. And meanwhile, every quarter point drop in rates adds approximately about 15,000 new buyers. nationwide back into that pool. That's a lot more competition for the same limited number of desirable homes, making your hunt significantly harder. Now, you might argue that inventory will loosen up perhaps another 10%, and you'd be right to an extent. But remember our earlier discussion, most of that incoming stock tends to be either downtown condos with those higher assessments or homes needing significant work. Now, think new roofs, updated plumbing, full kitchen overhauls. The cute, move-in ready Greystone in Lakeview, the one everyone wants, well, it will still see 5 or more offers on it, and you still have to battle it out. That desirable inventory remains stubbornly scarce. Now, what if the economy takes a tumble and rates plummet to, say, 5%? On the surface, that sounds like fantastic news for your monthly payments, but typically such a dramatic drop in rates is accompanied by a struggling economy. Unemployment spikes, lenders get kind of nervous, and credit standards tighten up significantly. Suddenly, you might need a pristine 720 FICO score and a hefty 15% down payment just to qualify for a loan. And if your job is in a cyclical industry like advertising, tech startups, or hospitality, you might find yourself unable to get approved at all, regardless of the low rates. It's a classic be careful what you wish for kind of scenario. Let's take a quick history check. Now, back in 2006, Chicago home prices peaked and slowly slid about 18% by 2012. Interestingly enough, mortgage rates were also around 6.5% back then. But here's the key. Now, that slide took 6 long years. If you had bought in 2007, right near the peak, and held through 2013, you would have essentially broke even on the price. But critically, you would have paid down a substantial $45,000 in principal on your mortgage. That's wealth creation even in a downturn. Now, the old adage holds true. Time in the market almost always beats trying to time the market, especially when rents continue the relentless march upward. So the bottom line is clear. Waiting rarely saves you money in the long run. It simply shifts the risk. Now, you're trading price risk for rate risk or availability risk. If you find a home you truly love that you can comfortably afford and you plan to stay for at least 5 years, then your best month to buy was always the last month. And the second best month, that would be today, right now. Don't let perfection be that enemy of good. So to answer the big question, with interest rates dropping, it's now a good time to buy a house in Chicago. Now, if you got a steady income, a solid 700 plus credit score, and you're planting roots here for at least 3 years or better, ideally, honestly, about 5 years or more, then the math says yes, now is the right time. Now, rates are gently drifting lower, which is easing those monthly payments. Inventory, while is still tight for the best properties, is slowly creeping up, giving you a few more options. And more importantly, you start building equity faster than your landlord builds their next rent hike for you. So if you wait, you'll likely pay more for the exact same house next year, facing increased competition. So tour smart, bid smart, and buy when the right place shows up for you, because opportunity rarely knocks twice in the exact same way. Hit that subscribe button and the like button for next week's video. Till then, keep crunching those numbers. I'll see you out there in the neighborhood. And some more footage from our Greece trip to close things out. Hope you enjoyed it. And catch you on the next one. This has been Lloyd for Real Estate. In Athens, Greece, at the historical spot where the great philosopher Socrates, this is a spot where he was in prison at. And his particular philosophy at the time was pretty much against the Christian government that's here in Athens, Greece. And they wasn't having it. He was in prison, eventually died. But this is the location here in Greece. And you can see it's a little more to it. Try to swing around a little bit. But any of you that took Greek philosophy in school and whatnot, this here, seeing this stuff, man, it's like mind-blowing, kind of takes me back a bit. Took it in high school and also in college. And actually be here at the place where some of this stuff took place at. Just kind of like amazing. And then also, Plato is from this region as well. Then you have the academy that's here in Greece as well. And you had some of the other philosophers that would come out of this area, and then we can go all the way back to ancient Greece, like maybe 200 to 300 BC. And you can get into some of the Greek gods and stuff like that. So I wanted to shoot a quick video for that. And this is the spot. Aboard the Celestial Journey. Getting ready to head out in a couple of hours. We got here kind of early this morning, which is what we wanted to do anyway, to get here early, kind of beat everybody out. But a real nice port that you get some of the scenery. So Piraeus is an old port in Greece. Goes back to 7th century BC. This is where they did a lot of trading with some of the other countries. And they had battles and stuff like that. I know they had the Peloponnesian War that the Greeks fought against Sparta. They ended up losing, but this is one of the main ports that they would come in and do trade and commerce at. Try to get a good wide shot for you so you can kind of look around a little bit and see. I don't know how to flip this damn camera around. But anyway, yeah, this is one of the top ports and whatnot. And as you can see, a lot of the cruise lines come up out of here. So this is the Celestial Journey. And we up on deck 11. This is like the top floor of the cruise ship. We leave up out of here about 5 o'clock this evening, but go to pool and all that good stuff. You see the water and everything else. So just got done eating, buffet up on this floor as well. A lot of good food, a lot of stuff to choose from. So I had some of everything. I think I had a chicken burger and some grilled fish and some potatoes, and has a gang of other stuff. So plenty of stuff to choose from in terms of that. But other than that, that's about it. Give you another update later once we get to sailing and cruising. We got to do the disembarkation down on the other floor. And we do that, then we be ready to sail up out of here. So that's it.